What if everything you've ever believed about your existence, your name, your identity, your story was only the surface of something infinitely deeper? What if there was an ancient manuscript, buried in silence for over a millennium, that described in precise detail what your soul actually went through before you were born, and why no one ever told you about it? This isn't just another lost scroll or forgotten text gathering dust in an old monastery. This is a book that was deliberately erased, hidden from you, because those in power knew its contents could change everything. It was feared not for its fiction, but for its truth. A truth so dangerous that empires burned it, priests banned it, and historians pretended it never existed. This book, whispered among mystics as the Liber de Misse, revealed what the soul experiences before entering a body, before taking its first breath, before the brain even begins to form. A complete map of the non-physical world. And it wasn't just metaphors or vague philosophy. It named specific stages, it gave sequences. It offered insights into why some people are born into chaos, why others seem to suffer endlessly, and why certain events feel eerily pre-written. But perhaps most striking of all, it said, "You chose it. Not as punishment, not as accident, but as design." For centuries, scholars called this heresy. But the initiates knew better. They passed the knowledge in whispers, encoded in symbols, preserved in secret schools that operated beyond the reach of kings and popes. The book didn't claim to be a religion. It didn't ask to be worshipped. It asked you to remember. And now, in a time where distractions rule, when most people are cut off from any real sense of purpose or origin, this knowledge begins to resurface. Not by chance, but because something in you, something ancient, is starting to stir. That itch you felt in quiet moments, the sense that this life is only a fragment of a much larger journey, isn't imagination, it's memory. A memory of a place, of a moment before all this, when you still knew who you were. And as this book begins to reveal its secrets, one message becomes clear. Your life was never random. It was chosen, carefully, lovingly, by you. Think about this: how many moments in your life have felt like echoes, like déjà vu, like whispers from something you couldn't quite place? How many times have you felt a pull towards something unexplainable, or cried at something you didn't fully understand? These aren't glitches in your mind. According to the Forbidden Book, they're remnants, fragments of memory that survived the veil that falls when your soul leaves the eternal and enters time. But even the veil isn't perfect. Something always leaks through, a dream that stays with you for years, a sudden recognition in a stranger's eyes, a childhood fear or fascination that never really went away. These are your soul's fingerprints left behind as clues. And now, the map to understanding them is unfolding again, after 1,200 years of silence. This is not a story about faith. This is a story about remembering what you already know. You've felt it before, that inexplicable sense that you're meant for something more, that your existence can't be explained just by biology and chance. That haunting feeling that you've been here before, maybe not in this exact body, but here on this earth, in this type of reality. The Forbidden Manuscript confirms it. Your soul is not a new spark. It's ancient, experienced. It has walked many worlds, worn many faces, spoken languages now long forgotten, and before each incarnation, it paused, it waited, it planned. The manuscript describes this as the most mysterious phase of all, the stage before birth, when your soul stands at the edge of the veil, still remembering, still luminous. And from that place, it chooses, not out of punishment, not out of karma in the way it's often misunderstood, but out of growth. Each life, like a chapter, each incarnation, a lesson. And that brings us to one of the strangest and most undeniable feelings a person can have, the feeling of not fully belonging. Maybe you've felt it. That sense that the world operates on rules you don't fully resonate with, that even from childhood, something always felt slightly off, as if you were trying to remember something you'd been told to forget. According to the Liber de Misse, this is the soul's memory trying to push through. Before you incarnated, before your physical brain was formed, you existed in a pure state of consciousness. And in that state, you knew. You understood why certain pains had to happen, why certain people would enter your life, why some things would break you and others would ignite you. That knowledge didn't vanish. It was only buried, covered by layers of culture, fear, trauma, distraction. But deep beneath all of it, it still hums like a frequency, one that can never be completely silenced. And then there's the dream. Not the kind that fades by morning, but the kind that stays with you for years. A place you've never been, yet feels like home. A person you've never met, but who feels like family. These are echoes, not just random firings of neurons. The book says they're fragments of the soul's journey before incarnation, a kind of spiritual déjà vu, because your soul doesn't forget all at once. And if you're paying attention, you'll notice the signs. Why does certain music bring you to tears with no clear reason? Why do you fear things that never happened to you? Why are you drawn to certain people instantly, as if you've known them for lifetimes? Because you probably have. And if all this resonates with something inside you that doesn't quite have words good, that means you're close. Close to remembering something the world tried to make you forget. And the book says, once you remember, your life will never be the same again. Before anything could begin, before time, before memory, before even the concept of form, there was a moment of stillness. And then, from that stillness, came a pulse, a signal, a vibration rippling through the fabric of the unseen. The forbidden manuscript describes it as the call of Origynth, the first stage of the soul's pre-birth journey. It's not a voice, it's not even a sound. It's something deeper, a stirring, a sacred nudge from the source itself. Not a command, not a demand, but a gentle invitation from the heart of all that is. And when your soul felt that call, it remembered. Not just remembered the lives it had lived or the places it had been, but remembered its desire to evolve, to grow, to return once more to the sacred challenge of incarnation. This is the beginning of it all. Not when you were born, not even when you were conceived, but when your soul, floating freely beyond time, responded to the eternal invitation, would you like to return? And you said yes. Not out of naivety, not out of compulsion. You said yes because you knew. You knew that Earth was not just a place of suffering, it was a school, a crucible, a stage for profound transformation. You knew that in a body, in limitation, in the confusion of forgetting, you could find something that doesn't exist in the perfection of the spiritual plane, experience. It was this decision to leave the comfort of the infinite and enter the density of matter that marked the beginning of your soul's new chapter. The moment you accepted the call, a kind of preparation began. But even now, long after that moment, the echo of that call still lingers within you. That feeling of restlessness, that hunger for something more, that quiet urge to seek truth, to find meaning beyond routine. You may not consciously hear it, but your soul still does. Every time you question the status quo, every time you choose love over fear, every time you close your eyes and feel the pull of something greater, that's the echo. That's the memory of having said yes to life again. And here's what the manuscript revealed. Not every soul answers the call. Some choose to remain in the spiritual realms, watching, waiting, continuing their evolution in other ways. But those who accept the ones like you are known by the ancients as the walkers between worlds, the ones who dare to forget in order to remember again, who agree to descend into pain, not for punishment, but to find power. And although you may feel alone in your journey, you are far from it. Because every soul that accepted the call carries within it a resonancia signature of that moment, and like a tuning fork, it vibrates with others who also remembered. That's why you sometimes meet a stranger and feel instantly connected. That's why certain words awaken something in you, even if you can't explain why. Because deep within your spiritual DNA, the call still sings. After answering the call, your soul begins to prepare for what lies ahead. But before it chooses a life, before it selects a body or a family or a purpose, it must first turn backward. Not to dwell in the past, but to learn from it. This is the stage known in the manuscript as the reflection of echoes, the life review. And this isn't judgment. It's not the cartoon version of a god tallying sins and virtues. It's not shame. It's not punishment. It's something far more intimate. The soul re-experiences its most recent incarnations, not just watching from above, but feeling every moment from both sides. When you spoke words of kindness, you feel the warmth those words gave others. When you caused harm, you feel that pain not as guilt, but as understanding. The life review is not about regret. It is about integration. This experience is so complete, so immersive, that many souls spend what we would call years in this process, though time, as we know it, doesn't apply there. Every moment is accessible, every detail alive. The smiles you gave, the words you withheld, the people you touched without even realizing it. You see the chain reaction of your actions, the butterfly effect rippling through families, communities, even generations. The purpose of this review isn't to punish you, it's to prepare you. Because how can you choose your next steps without fully understanding the path behind you? Your soul examines not just events, but the emotions, the motivations, the choices behind the choices. It seeks patterns. Where did I grow? Where did I hide? Where did I lead with love? Where did I shrink in fear? But here's the part that often shakes people to their core. The review shows you that no one else is to blame. Not in the way we often think. Yes, others may have hurt you, deeply. But your soul does not carry resentment. It sees from a higher lens. It sees that even your greatest pains were portals to something greater. The betrayals pushed you inward. The losses broke you open. The delays taught you patience. The heartbreak softened you. In the review, everything connects. All the loose threads, all the random detours begin to weave into a larger pattern. A pattern your human mind could never fully grasp in the moment, but your soul sees it all. Like looking down from a mountain after walking the winding path, and suddenly it makes sense. And then, something incredible happens. Once the review is complete, once you've felt and understood the ripples of your past, the soul forgives. It forgives itself. It forgives others. Not with words, but with awareness. And that forgiveness becomes a kind of fuel, a sacred power source for the journey ahead. Because you can't move forward carrying the weight of lifetimes. You must let go. And the manuscript describes that moment as a release so deep, it's like the soul sheds an old skin. It doesn't forget what happened, it transforms it. And in doing so, it becomes ready to choose. Ready to begin again, not as a blank slate, but as a conscious architect. This is the gift of the life review. Not guilt, not sorrow, but wisdom. And this wisdom becomes the foundation for everything that comes next. Now the soul stands in clarity. After reviewing the echoes of its past lives, after feeling every joy, every regret, every ripple it caused, it does not rush forward, it waits. Because now comes a moment more sacred than any ritual, more important than any ceremony. The manuscript refers to it simply as the gathering the souls meeting with the council. This is not legend. It is not myth. It is memory locked deep within your being. You may not remember the faces, the voices, the place, but your soul does. In this plane of pure consciousness, the soul does not meet with judges or rulers. It meets with companions, with beings who have walked beside it through lifetimes. Some are older than time itself. Some may be souls who once incarnated with you, family, friends, even rivals, all of them radiant, all of them deeply invested in your evolution. The council exists not to command, but to collaborate. And it's here, in this space of unconditional light, that the soul begins designing the architecture of its next life. The process is not mechanical. It's not bureaucratic. It's a co-creative dialogue, guided by the soul's deepest longing to evolve. Your soul steps forward, not as a student begging for answers, but as a sovereign being saying, "I am ready." And the questions begin. What have you not yet mastered? What fears are still holding you back? What strengths do you want to refine? What lessons have repeated lifetime after lifetime, asking to finally be faced? Every choice is deliberate. Every obstacle, every joy, every strange twist of fate you will face in the physical world begins here, on this luminous council plane. But the most astonishing part is this. You choose your relationships. You choose the souls who will walk with you. Some will be allies, some will challenge you. Some will love you so deeply their presence alone will awaken your memory, and some will break you wide open not out of cruelty, but out of agreement. These are known as soul contracts. Not binding like chains, but sacred like promises. You may have agreed with a soul to be born as siblings, only to push each other into growth through conflict. You may have chosen parents who would trigger your deepest wounds so you could learn to heal them from the inside out. You may have selected to meet a stranger who, with a single conversation, would change your entire path. None of this is random. None of this is coincidence. The Council ensures that every soul involved understands the agreements, and even the hardest roles are played with a kind of cosmic love. And once the outline of the life is formed, the terrain, the key players, the challenges, the gifts, your soul begins preparing for the next step, the most sacred choice of all. Not what you'll do, but who you'll be. This is the moment of choosing your purpose. Not a job title, not a career path. Something far more enduring. The soul's purpose is a vibration, a signature that pulses through every incarnation. It's the deeper reason behind every lesson you seek, the foundation of every truth you try to remember. For one soul, the purpose might be healing, learning how to transmute suffering into compassion. For another, it might be courage, stepping into darkness and choosing light again and again. For another still, it could be wisdom, gathering ancient knowledge and finding ways to bring it into the modern world. Whatever the purpose, the soul does not choose randomly. It chooses what will stretch it, grow it, evolve it. And here's what most people never realize. Your greatest wounds almost always point to your deepest purpose. That fear that keeps coming back, that repeating relationship dynamic, that inner battle you fought for as long as you can remember, those are not flaws, they're keys. And your soul placed them in your path with precision. Because your purpose isn't just something you fulfill, for others it's something that transforms you, and you chose it, not in haste, not out of obligation. You chose it knowing full well the challenges it would bring, the strength it would require, and the awakening it would demand, and you accepted. Then the preparations continue. The Council begins to show you options, not of events but of context, of where your soul will land, of the body you will inhabit, of the lineage, the family, the time period. And now, with full awareness, your soul chooses the exact body it will enter. You choose your parents. You choose the place you will be born. You choose the physical form that will house your essence, not to punish yourself, not because it's easy, but because it aligns perfectly with your mission. You see, from the soul's perspective, limitations are not weaknesses. A physical disability, for example, might be a tool for awakening empathy in yourself and others. Being born into poverty might teach you resilience or help you shatter illusions about worth and identity. Even being born into trauma might offer you the opportunity to break ancestral cycles that have lasted centuries. And as difficult as this is to accept, your soul may even choose parents who are wounded, lost, abusive, or not because their behavior is right, but because the soul sees beyond this life. It sees how overcoming that pain could ignite a strength that transforms not only your life, but the lives of those around you. Because the soul never chooses for comfort, it chooses for evolution. And even your body, your face, your voice, your eyes, your gender, your DNA is chosen with care. It is designed like an instrument. Every feature, every trait, every quirk is part of the song your soul came here to sing. The color of your skin, the tone of your voice, the way your heart reacts to beauty, or pain, or silence. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is random. And once all this is chosen, once the map is complete and the vessel is prepared, the soul does one final thing. It walks into forgetting. This, the manuscript says, is the most courageous moment of all. The soul, radiant with memory and purpose, steps willingly through the veil of forgetfulness. A shimmering threshold of energy that separates the seen from the unseen. As it crosses, memories fade. Agreements dissolve into subconscious intuition. The plan becomes a whisper. The mission becomes a feeling. And yet, even behind the veil, the soul leaves markers, clues, like breadcrumbs through the forest, in dreams, in gut feelings, in unexplainable longings. a pull towards certain people, a pain that seems older than your life, a love that feels like a reunion. These are not signs of confusion, they are signs that you are still connected, still remembering. Because the veil, though thick, is never total, and the soul your soul has never truly forgotten. It has only been waiting for you to remember. And then comes the moment unlike any other, the moment your soul, ancient and infinite, steps beyond planning, beyond reflection, beyond choice. It leaves the halls of light, the counsel of wisdom, the embrace of cosmic knowing, and begins its descent. Not metaphorically, but literally. It begins to spiral down through layers of consciousness, through dimensions increasingly dense, increasingly slow, until it reaches the very edge of time and matter. This is where the spiritual becomes physical. The soul now prepares to do something few beings in the universe have the courage to do: incarnate, to leave behind the fullness of awareness and enter a fragile, limited, forgetful body, to become human. The manuscript calls this the leap of trust, and it is perhaps the single greatest act of bravery your soul has ever committed. Imagine, you, an eternal being of light, of clarity, of total memory, agree to dive headfirst into a world where you will forget who you are. You will forget the plan you just helped create. You will forget the council, the soul family, the stages, the stars, the realms. You will forget even your own light, not because you are being punished, not because you are being tested, but because forgetting is part of the design. Without forgetting, there can be no rediscovery. Without rediscovery, there can be no transformation. And transformation is why you came. So, you leap, you cross the threshold, the veil wraps itself around your essence, and in that moment, all the memories you carried become soft echoes. The sacred blueprint gets buried under layers of time, trauma, and social conditioning. You enter the womb protected, yet already immersed in the vibrational atmosphere of your future. Your mother's emotions imprint onto your forming nervous system. Your environment begins shaping your subtle energy field. But beneath it all, the soul remains untouched. It watches, it waits, it prepares, and finally, the moment comes. You are born, and with your first breath, the soul anchors itself into the physical form. The leap is complete. But what the Forbidden Book makes clear is that birth is not the beginning, it's the entry point into a game already planned. And you, the player, chose to forget the rules so you could remember them from the inside out. That's why children often carry a strange clarity. That's why some babies stare at nothing with such intensity, as if they're looking at something beyond. That's why toddlers sometimes speak of other lifetimes, of before I came here, of memories no one taught them. In those early years, the veil is still thin, the soul is still close to the surface. But as the child grows, the density of the world increases. Language, expectation, education, punishment, all of it begins to layer over the soul's memory. Slowly, the voice becomes quieter. The memories fade. The world insists, you are this body, you are this role, you are this name. And for a while, the soul sleeps. But the manuscript reveals something extraordinary. The veil, though thick, is not perfect. It was never meant to be permanent. It was meant to soften your landing, not to trap you forever. And so, the soul leaves clues, breadcrumbs scattered throughout your life to help you wake up. A recurring dream that haunts you. A place you've never been, but that feels like home. A language you've never studied, yet recognize. A person you meet and instantly feel you've known for lifetimes. These are not coincidences. They are cracks in the veil. And the more you pay attention to them, the wider those cracks become. Your intuition sharpens. Your dreams become more vivid. You begin to feel drawn to certain books, places, teachings not from curiosity, but from remembrance. And then something deeper begins to stir. You start questioning things you were taught never to question. You wonder why certain patterns keep repeating. You sense that your pain has meaning, even if you don't yet know what it is. You begin to feel like there's a map somewhere and part of you already knows how to read it. That's because the soul, even buried under years of forgetting, never forgets itself. It simply waits, It sends signals. It whispers through the cracks. And when you finally sit still long enough, when you stop distracting yourself with the noise of the world, those whispers become words. Those words become memory, and that memory becomes fire. This is how you begin to burn away the veil, not with force, not with intellect, but with willingness. The willingness to feel, to trust, to go inward, even when it's uncomfortable. Meditation, silence, stillness. These aren't just spiritual practices, they are keys. When you sit in silence, when you stop running from your thoughts, the soul begins to speak again. It reminds you, not with full-blown visions, but with impressions, feelings, sudden knowing. A sense of, I've been here before. A pull towards something you haven't yet done, but somehow already agreed to. And if you follow that pull, if you trust it, you begin to remember more. The manuscript explains that the veil is not your enemy. It is your training ground. It is what gives meaning to the rediscovery of self. Imagine playing a game where you already knew the ending. There would be no tension, no risk, no breakthrough. But here on Earth, nothing is guaranteed. Every awakening must be earned. Every truth must be reclaimed. And it's that process of reclaiming that transforms you from a soul into a sovereign. You came here not to obey, not to fit in, not to survive. You came here to remember, and through that remembrance, to change everything. And so the question becomes, when will you stop acting like you are lost? When will you stop believing that life is happening to you? When will you begin to feel that ancient fire again, the one that burned long before your first breath? You've done this before. You've leapt through the veil. You've woken up inside the dream. And you can do it again, because buried beneath the forgetting, beneath the noise, beneath the confusion, your soul is still there waiting, glowing, whispering, "Wake up, it's time." The leap has been made. The veil has fallen. You are born. And the moment your first breath floods your lungs, the soul, your true self, settles into the human experience, like a spark entering a storm. You cry, not because something is wrong, but because something ancient within you remembers what was left behind. The light, the unity, the infinite. And now, in this small, fragile body, you begin the longest journey of all remembering who you are from within the forgetting. You are no longer watching from above. You are no longer planning in the realm of clarity. Now, you are in it. Earth, time, emotion, duality, the chaos and beauty of being human. And yet, through all of this, the soul does not abandon you. It merges with your experience, whispering from beneath the surface. Your instincts, your dreams, your longings, these are the voice of your eternal self, muffled by the world, but always present. The ancient manuscript calls this the sacred immersion. The moment when the soul, fully committed to the experience, allows itself to become one with form. Not to escape pain, but to feel it. Not to float above suffering, but to transform through it. And this is where your greatest power lies, because the soul didn't just leap into the physical to observe, it came to evolve. It came to remember the map from within the maze, to walk blindfolded, bruised and burdened, and still find the way home. That's the miracle of incarnation, not perfection, not ease, but awakening through difficulty. Think of the early years of life, how children laugh without reason, cry without shame, love without condition. That purity isn't naivety, it's memory. For a brief time, the veil is thin, but soon the world presses in. Rules, expectations, labels. You're taught to doubt your own intuition, to ignore what can't be measured, to forget the invisible world you once knew so well. And yet, even as the veil thickens, your soul plants seeds, moments that don't quite make sense, feelings you can't explain, encounters that feel too meaningful to be coincidence. These are not random. These are not imagination. They are echoes from before. Every time you question the system, every time you feel a longing you can't put into words, every time you look at the stars and wonder where home really is, that is your soul stirring beneath the surface. And sometimes, if you're lucky, or perhaps, if you're simply ready, you remember, even for a second, you remember that you chose this, that you are not a victim, that the pain you've carried has purpose, that your path, though hard, is sacred. But here's the part they never wanted you to know. Here's the truth that was torn from ancient pages, buried under centuries of dogma, erased from schools, temples, and books. You are not meant to stay asleep. You were never meant to forget forever. The system that surrounds you, governments, organized religions, the machinery of modern life, it has depended for centuries on your amnesia, because a human being who remembers their origin is not easy to control. You cannot shame someone into submission if they know they are divine. You cannot frighten someone with punishment if they remember they chose their journey. You cannot keep someone small if they know their soul is infinite. So the truth was hidden. The manuscript, like so many others, was outlawed. The mystics were silenced. The wisdom was ridiculed. And in its place, a story was sold to you. That you are broken, that you are separate, that your worth comes from others, that your life is a product of luck or sin or randomness. But the truth never dies. It waits, in symbols, in myths, in buried texts, and most importantly in you, because no matter how deep the forgetting, your soul remembers. The fire inside you cannot be extinguished. It only dims when covered in layers of fear and distraction. And now, something is happening, a global stirring. Millions of souls are hearing the call again. Not for the first time, but for the next time. They are remembering the plan, the leap, the mission. And once that remembrance begins, it cannot be reversed. You see through the illusions. You stop chasing what no longer matters. You feel the ancient pulse inside you growing stronger. So the question is no longer if you're meant for something more. You already know you are. The real question is, what will you do with that knowing? Will you ignore it, distract yourself, pretend you're still asleep? Or will you honor it? Will you sit with it, breathe into it, and let it reshape everything? Because the soul's memory is not just spiritual, it's practical. It changes the way you live. It shifts your decisions. It rewrites your values. When you remember that you chose your family, your body, your path, you begin to see your life not as a prison, but as a sacred training ground. You forgive. You release. You take responsibility not as a burden, but as a superpower. And from that place, your entire vibration changes. And this is where it gets even more extraordinary. According to the manuscript, remembering is not an accident. It is a stage in the cycle. You forget so that you can remember from within. And when you remember, you radiate. Your energy becomes medicine. Your presence becomes a frequency that awakens others, not through words, just by being, just by embodying the light you carried all along. This is the real reason you came. Not to suffer, not to conform, but to wake up and remind others they can too. And this is why the forbidden knowledge was so dangerous. Because once a soul remembers, they are free. They are unshackled. They do not need permission. They do not bow to false gods. They become a lighthouse in a world of fog. And one awakened soul has more power than 1,000 who are still asleep. So now, here you are. Not by chance, not by mistake. Hearing these words, feeling something inside you stir. This is not just information. It is a mirror held up to your soul, showing you what you already know, that you are not lost, that you are not broken, that you are not small, you are eternal, you are luminous, you are here by choice, and the time to remember has come. Not tomorrow, not when you're perfect, not when life is easier, now, because the truth was never outside you. It was always within, waiting for this very moment. You answered the call before. You took the leap before. You walked through the veil before. And now, you're beginning to walk back through it this time, from the inside out, with eyes open, with heart clear, with soul on fire. And once you start down that path, there is no going back. Only forward, only deeper, only home.